Am I the only one here tonight, shaking my head and thinking something ain't right? Is it just me? Am I losing my mind? Am I standing on the edge of the end of time? Am I the only one? Tell me I'm not. Who thinks they're taking all the good we got? Turn it back. Hell, I'll be damned. I think I'm turning into my old man. Am I the only one willing to bleed? Take a bullet for being free? Screaming what the fuck at my TV for telling me, yeah, you're telling me that I'm the only one willing to fight for my love, the red and white and the blue. Burning on the ground, another statue coming down in a town near. Watching the threads of old glory come undone. Am I the only one not brainwashed, making my way through the land of the lost, who still gives a shit and worries about his kids as they try to undo all the things he did? Am I the only one? Can't take no more screaming. If you don't like it, there's the fucking door. This ain't the freedom we've been fighting for. It was something more. Yeah, it was something more. Am I the only one willing to fight for my love of the red and white and the blue? Burning on the ground, another statue coming down in a town near. Watching the threads of old glory come undone. I'm not the only one. I can't be the only one. Am I the only one who quit singing along every time they play a Springsteen song? Am I the only one sitting here, still holding on, holding back my tears for the ones who paid with the lives they gave? God bless the USA. I'm not the only one willing to fight for my love of the red and white and the blue. Burning on the ground, another statue's coming down in a town near you. Watching the threads of old glory come undone. I'm not the only one. I can't be the only one.
Hey, 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 y'all. Yeah, I love Aaron Lewis too. He's got some good songs. I posted a link to that. He does a lot of good ones. Hey, Andy, Truly, Nicole. I was a little late. My fucking carbon monoxide detector went off twice, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I make sure because I got a gas water heater, and I got every fucking window in my house open, and I like freaked the fuck out. That's why I was late, and I was like, what the fuck? Now it's going to start storming. Go figure. Truly, do you see that storm coming toward us, man? God, it's starting early this year, ain't it? Hey, Jules, my love. I know, Andy. I freaked out. It went off twice, and it has not went off in a very. It hasn't went off, and then twice in a row. I know, truly. I'm over Florida. I can't wait to move up where my daddy's at. I cannot wait. I mean, they get hurricane weather there, but it's not like it is here, because he's more inland, not too much inland, but DeSantis put out a state of emergency already. I'm over fucking Florida. Florida is overrated to live in. If anyone is considering moving here, no, I don't recommend. Hey, Carl, it could be, yeah. Winifred, hush it. About time you get here, Carl. Sheriff's always late. Go figure. You're starting to act like Biden. Yeah, it's little Winifred. It's thundering outside, and that's what they're barking at. It's like black outside the skies. It's getting ready. Every time I go live, I swear it starts. Yeah, Carl is a sheriff. Carl, do you mod on any other channels or you was lurking since 5:30? Yeah, my fucking carbon monoxide detectors went off. Or my detector twice. I turned it off and I was like, okay, and I opened a window and then it went off again. So I opened every fucking window in my house, man. I got the fan going, the air conditioner, front door open. Yeah, Carl's napping. That's about like a sheriff, ain't it? Yeah, you do, Maud. You say smash the thumbs up. Hell, that helps. I don't really care about getting in the algorithm or nothing, but I appreciate that. He ate too many donuts, yeah. You ran into him in Oh, he's been out hooking it, huh? He's been out whoring around. Andy, thank you for telling on him. Yeah, he's probably more in the cupcakes and the donuts. He does like cupcakes. We know that, Jules. Hey, but Carl, tell him whose spurs are bigger than yours. Tell him who's the real boss. Y'all two crack me up. I don't know where she's at. She's probably with her family. Where was he at today, Andy? Probably Clue. I know that. I'm not. I didn't. I was out running around all day, running errands and grocery store and everything else, and I didn't get to watch nobody really much. I just don't. I can't watch no. How'd you know it was Meg's? You know she's boss. Put pie pans in your trees, truly, Jules. Aluminum pie pans. Hang them in your tree. It looks ghetto as fuck, but it'll scare the birds away. Granny's, yeah. I like Granny. And I like that Granny kind of took up for Jules today. I like that. Truly, my Monroe, my red one there in the picture with me, I have to be her support. Yeah, during them. She shakes and pants and three of them now. Who's the other one, Andy? I'm really sick of hearing about it, but I love Betty is finally getting her ass handed to her. I'm just over true crime. There's only certain people I'll watch about it, and like I watched Savage some on it, and Clue. I watched her the other day some on it. Terry and his wife. I thought, what's up with Katie then? I thought Katie was same. Truly, she don't really cry. She just really pants, and I can't get her. She's stiff as a board, shaking, and they filed today. Oh, plus Katie. Oh, okay. Fuck yeah. Hey, bitch, it's about fucking time. Jules, we used to have, whenever I was at home, we had, we actually had peach trees and grapevines. And that's what my stepdad done. He would put pie pans in there. You can go like to Dollar Tree and get them, like the turkey basting pan or any of that. Oh, she's fucked, Andy. Oh, do you know what? With the queen bee and Betty one, Queen ain't no better in it because she look at her, she's dragging Betty every fucking day now again. You know, her supporters, I mean, call a spade a spade. You know, I have a love hate for Queen. All her supporters donated what $20,000 for a lawyer, and look at her. It's kind of like a laugh in the face to them. I mean, I don't get it because Savage and somebody went to court and they cannot speak on each other ever again, and they don't. The algorithm, that's whenever you get out there and you get like foreign people that come to your channel and watch Carl. Allie, anybody want to come up and talk about this 9/11 stuff with me? Because I'm gonna be honest, when 9/11 happened, you know, I knew, you know, terrorists and all that, but like I said, I have not got into all this stuff, politics, conspiracies with like, you know, the government and stuff until recently, like the past 2 years. Um, and I'm there's a lot I don't know, but I'm learning, you know, and I see it, and I finally opened my eyes, you know, to what was going on and shit. And like the 9/11, I don't know a whole lot about that. And me and Jules was talking earlier, and she was filling me in on some stuff, and I'm really, and I watched last night whenever they got, um, whenever Biden and Kamala got those off the plane from Russia, the hostages or whatever, and they ain't gonna come up with 5K. She gonna need more than 5K. Did y'all hear where there she says the dog attacked her, but if you hear the clip, she hurt that dog and it broke my fucking heart to hear it. See, that's what Jules was telling me about today, the Gitmo. Yeah, Jules. Well, Queen Bee got like right at $20,000 from her supporters for the lawsuit with Betty. It was on your birthday, 9/11. Hi, Teresa. Oh, you're a Virgo too? I think we talked about that, didn't we? I was 19 and pregnant when it happened. I was in Alabama with my dad. Um, my husband, father of my child at the time, he was out on, there was a, what was it? The Pentagon, was it? Or what was in Pennsylvania that got hit? Was it Pennsylvania or, but he had, I don't know, he went somewhere and done some kind of storm cleanup or something. And I went down to Alabama from Kentucky with my dad for a while, before I had the baby. And I'll never forget it. I was fucking, that was in September and I had my son in the Pentagon. Yes, he was working really close to that. And I had my son in December. It was really wild. My mom, okay, my stepsister, me and her never got along. Um, her husband, well, her ex-husband now, is actually, I don't know if he's still, but he was a Secret Service agent. He's got five brothers, and his dad was a FBI detective. And he was going to school to be a state trooper, Kentucky State Police, but he got into Secret Service, and they went up to New Jersey. They lived in New Jersey. Bell something, New Jersey is where they put him, but he worked on the first floor of the Twin Towers. And my mom and my stepdad went up there in December right after I had my son because my mom said she wanted to go and see it. She wanted to see the site. And that was December, of course. And 6 months later, she passed away. It was wild, but she got to see it. He was in the sixth grade. I was 19 and pregnant. Hey, Chai. I went to see the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island, and over on New Jersey side there is. I have pictures of it actually. I could show y'all. There's a big old steel beam, and it was pretty cool. Has anyone ever been to the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island? Ellis Island's pretty cool. You was a little shit. You still are a little shit, but you're a badass, Jules. I was pregnant with my first kid. I had him in December. You're tiny but mighty, Jules. Oh my God, truth. Oh my God. That's when Ozanime came to the country, allegedly, or whatever, and got into our military. It's crazy. Okay, just let's see here. Let's get into this. Let's see, what do I want to start with? Okay, let's listen to JD Vance's speech on it first. Because JD Vance did speak on it. He was 32, I was 19. Had just turned 19. My birthday's September 7th, and it happened on the 11th. It was right after your birthday, too, Jules. And Teresa, it happened on your birthday. That's wild. I'll never forget that day. You was 24. Hi, Nikki Two Pose. Nikki, I can't find that bagel company. I'm gonna need some more bagels. I got ripped off. I ordered some and I got fucking ripped off and I'm so pissed over it and I can't get my money back and I can't get a hold of the shop and me too, Jules. I should have played that at the beginning. We'll play that song. We will. I love Alan Jackson. Okay, here we go. JD Vance.
It is great to be in Arizona. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, please, thank you all. It is so fantastic to be in Arizona. IO. Thank you to Charlie Kirk. Isn't Charlie Kirk great? He's done so much for this state of this country. Well, in 96 days, my friends, we're going to take back our country and elect Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. And it's going to start right here in the great state of Arizona, right? Now, we have to remember, just over a month ago, President Trump wiped the floor with Joe Biden on the debate stage, exposing a massive cover-up of the president's mental incapacity, and he saved America from 4 more years of the disaster that is Joe Biden. Now, during that same time, remember, this was just a month ago, President Trump accepted our party's nomination with overwhelming support. He held the most successful convention in history. He even took a bullet for the country he loves, but he didn't miss a single day of work. Now, President Trump did all of that in 1 month. Just imagine what he can do with 4 more years. Now, the media, of course, is going to do everything they can to stop that from happening. We have some of our illustrious media back there. It's okay. Some of them are okay, like 1 or 2. Now, this morning, President Trump attended the National Association of Black Journalists Conference in Chicago. Did you see all? Seemed like it was a lot of fun. But he did that because he's running to be president for all Americans. Now, he's already got record support from black voters, Hispanic voters, union workers, and many other Americans who have been lied to and betrayed by Kamala Harris and the fake news media.
Did y'all hear what Trump said to the walnut with the wig? Did y'all hear what Trump said to her? Or said, let me see here. I got that saved. We can play the little short clip real quick because we're going to be in and out on this. But I got so much shit saved I want to go over. Let's see here. Where's that at? Even DeSantis is calling her out. Yeah, Kamala Harris. Okay, we will get right back to JD Vance. But since he spoke about Trump being there, I want y'all to hear this.
Look at that. Donald Trump returned to Pennsylvania for the first time last night. He held a rally in Harrisburg, again, for the first time that he's been in Pennsylvania since the assassination attempt on his life fewer than 3 weeks ago. And as you know, that was in Butler County, Pennsylvania. Just hours before, the former president was in Chicago, where he was taking questions from a panel at the National Association of Black Journalists convention. I was one of the co-moderators of that panel, but things took a hostile turn before we could even ask one question. The journalist to his right leaned in with this.
You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort.
For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say hello. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country.
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is.
Yeah, race is a tough issue. It doesn't matter when it comes up, and when there's emotion mixed in, it gets even tougher. So those moments were really hard to be in the room for some people. I was really glad I was there to witness it, because right from the get, it was not what it should have been. But we'll get into that in a moment. The vice president was also supposed to be there. So the Donald Trump campaign team had been told that Kamala Harris would be there, but then told the group that she had a scheduling conflict. That's what we were all told on the ground the minute we got there. Well, that apparently was lunch with
She's scared of Trump.
the president at the White House and the press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, condemning the former president for his comments. Now, let's go to the press secretary.
I agree, Jules.
The American people deserve better. The American people deserve a leader who tells the truth, a leader who does not respond with hostility and anger when confronted with the facts.
It doesn't matter if it's a former leader, a former president.
I can't stand her.
Insulting. And we have to put, she is the vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris. We have to put some respect on her name.
Wow. Trump's vice presidential candidate, JD Vance, branded Kamala Harris as a coward, posting this quote: President Trump walked right into the NABJ conference and showed
Me
he
too,
had the
truly.
courage to take tough questions, while Kamala Harris continues to hide from any scrutiny or unfriendly media like the coward she is. That's a quote. Now, we do know that Kamala Harris will be speaking with NABJ. She announced that, or her team did yesterday, just ahead of Donald Trump taking the dais.
Jules, you
there,
fucking
and she'll
kill
do
me,
that
bitch.
via satellite at this point, as far as we know, not in person. Caroline Sunshine, Trump 2024 Deputy Communications Director. Caroline, first of all, I want to know, what is the word today inside the Trump campaign about yesterday?
Well, you know this better than anybody, Harris.
There's you a MILF, Carl.
On stage, actually doing your job as a journalist rather than deciding to play commentator like the other woman on that stage, who should have honored the journalistic obligations of her profession, but instead took the opportunity to play commentator, which was a disservice to that audience. The word of the day is fake, fake, fake versus fight, fight, fight. President Trump says it better than I ever could. And on stage in Pennsylvania last night, you heard him say, this election is between fake, fake, fake and fight, fight, fight. Kamala Harris, if she is likely to be the Democrat nominee of
I love
selection
Candace
versus
Owens.
election,
She's the
is
GOAT.
fake policies. She allows the fake news media to do her bidding and carry water for her so that she never has to show up and take tough questions from journalists. Versus you contrast that with fight. President Trump being the man who took a bullet for democracy and then returning to that state of Pennsylvania just weeks later, and then fight, looking at how he handled himself on that stage, willingly going to a place where I believe President Trump was the first Republican nominee or the first Republican president to attend the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. Being in person, being willing to go speak to audiences that may not have heard from him before and try to do it in a way that we hope allows for less bias,
Truly,
but
I
that's
love
not
her.
how President Trump, as you saw on that stage, was treated. And I thought it was a masterclass from President Trump in how to tell, as he asked Rachel, he said, can you give me a definition of DEI? Can you give me a definition? And she couldn't. So I thought it was a masterclass from President Trump in how you fight and tell the truth. And yet another textbook case study in how the liberal mainstream media's bias plays out.
Look, we will see moving forward how race plays a role in this whole thing leading up to now 96 days out.
Okay, we'll finish watching this because I got some stuff on this I want to cover too, but we're going to get back to JD Vance.
This morning, unlike Kamala Harris, President Trump showed up and took some tough questions. The press treated him the same way they have since he came down that escalator in 2015. They were rude. They cut him off. And they didn't want to hear, much less report, the truth of what he said. So you guys want to hear that truth about Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris is a phony who caters to whatever audience is in front of her.
He's a Trump Jr., I swear. Hey,
earlier this week, look up the clip. She went down to Georgia and started talking with a fake Southern accent.
Okay,
serious.
hold
now,
on.
What the hell was that all about?
I got that too. I want to play that for y'all because, yeah, listen to this shit. I'm glad I saved all these clips so we can put some context into this because now some of y'all haven't heard it. I love Ted Cruz.
The words out of her mouth sound different in the South. True. Kamala gets wrecked for her fake dialect. Our video of the day comes to us from a Kamala Harris rally in Atlanta yesterday. Listen carefully how quickly she went from a San Francisco elite to a Southern belle.
You all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. Yes, we will.
Well, I do declare. But that was really fast, so let's hear it one more time, please.
You all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. Yes, we will.
I'm offended by that.
2020, the election year, Kamala got 0 delegates. Even Amy Klobuchar got 5 of them, and she eats salad with a comb. I will never forget this egg salad with a comb. Liz, why did she do this? Why did what?
No, I was thinking about, oh yes, unburdened by what has been her California accent and her Canadian upbringing. So I'm wondering is she going to have hot sauce in her pocket like Hillary? Is she going to go gun shooting in Ohio like John Kerry did? I mean, nothing screams fake more than a fake accent after you had, no delegates, no Democrat primary voters, and now, pretty much a Potemkin campaign because she's not talking any policy. It's all brand and imaging.
Yeah, I think the craziest one was,
Sheriff. Facts.
Well, remember when Hillary was trying to connect with the younger voters? She was like, Pokemon, go to the polls. Or when she started barking. Jim?
I remember the bark.
She was doing some speech, and it was it was in front of a black audience, and she changed her accent. I don't feel no ways tired. It was a really awful. And I don't understand what it is about people who want to rule the free
Ciao.
world. They have such a weird sense of self that they use a fitting in technique that I used when I was a freshman in high school. How do you not have any idea of your own identity enough to be comfortable? Like, and I don't mind if people hate Trump, but the bottom line is he is the same guy in every room. Can you picture him doing this? You know, y'all, like it's just.
I actually can't.
No.
I actually can't picture it.
That's a guy who truly, whether you like him or not, he truly believes in himself. And you could tell someone who believes in themselves because they're themselves in any room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, don't clap. Don't clap. I change in every room I go into.
You knew this room would like that one.
Yeah. So I said it, so you'd like it.
Kennedy, what do you think?
I went to a black church in Harlem with Jim, and he spoke jive the entire time. It was like Barbara Billingsley in Airplane. I mean, it was uncanny. It really
was. Yeah, every time he calls me on the phone, I'm like, my brother?
Oh, Mama didn't raise no dummy. Yeah, it's so weird, and she doesn't have to do that.
No.
And it's like, remember when Joe Biden was like, they're gonna put you all in jail.
Oh, yes.
And it's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, it's so weird and disingenuous. And it's like Hillary Clinton set women back in politics 8 years. It has taken 8 years for a major party to have a female nominee. And if Kamala keeps going at this rate, she's going to tank it for another 45.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not good news. I mean, this is actually, you can set women's rights back by having a candidate like this who casts a bad shadow over really phenomenal, successful, capable women. I would not put her in that category.
All right, we're going to go back to JD. I just wanted y'all to see that where I was kind of offended by that. I don't like people to mock the Southern accent. It's our heritage, a lot of us, and that's one accent you can't fake, in my opinion.
Canada. They don't talk like that in Vancouver or Quebec or wherever she came from. Doesn't matter. It's the same new liberal policies, but a different accent, whoever she's talking to. Now on November 5th, she can go back to using her San Francisco accent because we are going to send her packing and we're going to elect Donald Trump president of the United States. Now, it's funny what Kamala Harris does, but what she has done to this country is not a laughing matter.
Me
Just
too,
today,
Shirley.
I heard that the Biden-Harris Department of Justice cut a deal with al-Qaeda terrorists to lead Sheikh Mohammed to avoid the death penalty. It was reported today. Now, as someone who enlisted in the Marines to serve after 9/11,
The president of the United States or the leader of any country should be 100% male. That is never a job for a female. There is some careers, some positions that women should never be able to hold. And I will die on that hill. Just like the short Secret Service girls trying to protect Trump. He's over 6 foot tall and they're under 5 foot, that is not a job. Yeah, you can be in the Secret Service, but don't guard the president when he's over 6 foot tall. Because you're supposed to protect him so he don't lose his life, A woman should never be president. Never. That a woman is not fit, we're not mentally wired or anything to run a fucking country, and I'll die on that hill.
that is ridiculous, but it's not surprising. Now, just think about the point that we've gotten to. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have weaponized the Department of Justice to go after their political opponents, but they're cutting a sweetheart deal with 9/11 terrorists. We need a president who kills terrorists, not negotiates with them.
Preach, JD.
Now, the weakness of this administration, of Kamala Harris's administration, has been a disaster for our country all over the world. Now, there are so many examples we could talk about, but recent news comes out of Venezuela that they cut a deal with a dictator in Venezuela, and they offered in exchange that that dictator would have free and fair elections. And shocker, the Kamala Harris administration doesn't know anything about free and fair elections. So they're coddling dictators all over the world. We need to bring back American strength, and that means bringing back Donald J. Trump as president of the United States. Now, after covering up for Joe Biden's incompetence for 3.5 years, this is a scandal from both the Democrats and the media. Now they're gaslighting us about Kamala Harris's radical record. The media likes to portray her all of a sudden. She's a sensible moderate. That's what they say. Now, the same media that told us for 3.5 years Joe Biden, who couldn't finish a sentence, was Albert Einstein, now they tell us Kamala Harris is Abraham Lincoln. But anyone who is too blind to see Biden's incompetence, or more likely, too dishonest to admit it, is not fit to serve as our commander-in-chief. And the Democrat Party bosses, they've decided to install Kamala Harris as their new nominee. But think about this. She has not received a single vote for president of the United States. Now, the media calls this a coronation. I think we'd call it a coup. And in America, we don't crown our leaders. We vote for them. Now, I'm going to the border tomorrow, and her record of disaster is clear. 500,000 kids have been trafficked by the Mexican drug cartels because of her policies. Hundreds of thousands of our citizens are dead from fentanyl overdoses because of her policies. Hardworking Americans cannot afford groceries because of her policies. Now, the media wants to call her a moderate, but here's a fact check for the fake news. Kamala Harris was the most liberal senator in the entire United States Senate. She is a dangerous San Francisco liberal, and thanks to the people in this room, she is never going to be the president of the United States of America.
Like, oh, Hillary.
Let us count the ways in which Kamala Harris has screwed up this country over the last 3.5 years. Now, they'll all lie to you about it, the media, but she was appointed the border czar and then unleashed the worst border crisis in the history of this country. On her watch, more than 10 million illegal aliens have invaded our country. And it wasn't by accident, it was by design. They said when they took office that they were going to do exactly what they did. They said they wanted to decriminalize illegal immigration and tear down immigrations and customs enforcement, open up the floodgates and give illegal aliens free health care. And she wanted you, the American citizens, to pay the bill. That's what she said. And then on her very first office, they went to work, but not for you, for them. They suspended deportations. They stopped building President Trump's wall. They reinstated catch and release. And that's how every state became a border state, because they just released these people into our country. Then they fly them first class, give them first class hotel accommodations. You guys are paying for that too. Then they proposed amnesty for illegal aliens. They might as well have sent hand-drawn invitations to millions of illegal immigrants all over the world, including, by the way, violent criminals and terrorists. The media lies to you about that, but don't let them. Now, the chief there we go. We let one crazy person in out of a crowd of 1,000. That's not too bad, right? Now, what our friend out there doesn't want you to hear, but I'm going to say anyway, is that the chief of Border Patrol was appointed over a year ago. Our own border czar, Kamala Harris, hasn't spoken a single word to him. How does that make sense? Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, ladies and gentlemen. My brothers and I, you know what we have? You know what we call that? We call that a dereliction of duty. And now she has the nerve to question the loyalty of me and Donald Trump. Did you see that? Well, here's a message to Kamala Harris. Here's what Donald Trump and I believe about loyalty to this country. Loyalty to this country is closing the border, not opening it up. Loyalty is safeguarding Medicare for American citizens, not bankrupting it by giving it to illegal aliens. Loyalty is protecting Laken Riley, not inviting the illegal immigrant who killed her and took her life. Loyalty is protecting our children from fentanyl, not inviting the drug cartels to deal it in our playgrounds. Loyalty is serving in the United States Marine Corps, something I am proud of.
I
Loyalty
love this man.
is taking a bullet
Even
for this country,
before
something Donald J. Trump did.
he ran
If
for
Kamala
vice
Harris
president.
wants to see the face of disloyalty, she can look in the damn mirror.
Fucking love him. All right, Carl, you're good, bro.
This is a great crowd. What? Kamala Harris, let's keep on going, handed out 3 million work permits to illegal aliens who lied and claimed asylum in this country. That turns a blind eye to fraudsters who are destroying American jobs, union and non-union alike, and undercutting the wages of American workers. And I guarantee you, if the failed border czar becomes the president of the United States, she is going to give every single illegal immigrant the right to vote, going to destroy your nation and your say in your own country. And I've got a different message, my friends. If you are in this country, start packing your bags, because Donald Trump is coming back and he's going to send you home. My friends, it is time to put the interests of the citizens first. The interests of American citizens should be the priority of our leadership. That used to be common sense. We may have disagreed with the Democrats 20 years ago, but they at least agreed that we're supposed to put the interests of our citizens first. Now, we are grateful to have some great Republican leadership in the state of Arizona and all across our country who are committed to this basic principle that our leaders should care about our own citizens. So I'm going to give a shout out to a few of them. Arizona Republican Chairwoman Gina Swoboda. Where's Gina? There's Gina. We got Glendale Mayor Jerry Weirs. Where's Jerry? Jerry. We have got some great congressmen in the state of Arizona. We've got Eli Crane. Where's Eli?
Is Arizona
Andy Biggs,
blue or red?
Where's Andy?
Never mind, it says Trump country.
Where's Paul Gosar? Love Paul Gosar. We've got a great congresswoman in this district, I believe, Debbie Lesko. There's Debbie. She's not from Arizona, but she is a superstar. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. We heard from her earlier. There she is. We've got Arizona State Senate President Warren Peterson. Warren. We've got State Senator Janae Shamp. Where's Janae? Right. Now, I met Janae earlier, and she said, I said, Janae, call me JD. And she said, I'm not going to do that. I said, okay, Janae, in a few months, you can call me Mr. Vice President. How's that sound? Is that all right? Now, before I call up our next guest, I want to just point out what an incredible blessing it is to have a future United States Senator who actually cares about this country and is dedicating to putting its interests first. Now, the reason we know she's awesome is because the fake news lies about her as much as anybody else in this country. She just won her primary, though it wasn't in doubt. Carrie Lake, can you please come on up here?
Oh my goodness. Thank you for that introduction.
She did like an hour speech recently. I also have that if y'all want to watch that later, but we'll watch that on another time. But yeah, I like her.
I love you too. Guys, I'm so excited. I've got goosebumps because I realize what's about to happen in our country. We're about to get America back. And this mama bear is ready to get America back. I don't know about you guys. I got to tell you a quick story about Senator Vance. When I was thinking about running, I decided I wanted to go and talk to some people who are in the Senate. And did you know you were the first senator I talked to? Remember that?
I don't
day in
give two
office?
shits
He
about the
invited me into his
Olympics
office,
at all,
and he
period.
said,
Don't
Carrie, you're
care.
going to hate the swamp. But because I know you're going to hate the swamp, we need you in the swamp. We need
Drain
people
the
who
swamp.
don't love Washington, D.C. to go to Washington, D.C.
Deep state.
I'm not going there to make a whole bunch of lobby. I don't want to make any lobbyist friends. I got enough friends in Arizona. And I want to go there and be a senator much like Senator Vance has been, somebody who votes for America First policy, even if he's getting the stink eye from some of the swampier people in the swamp.
Teresa, what did you say?
Right?
They disappeared.
We don't want someone in Washington, D.C. who's going to get there and cave to the lobbyists.
I
and
agree,
the
Truly.
DC swamp.
I don't
We
give
got to
a
have
fuck about
fighters
the
in
Olympics.
D.C. I love J.D. Vance because he's in this because he loves his family. He knows the future of this country. We're at a crossroads right now. We either save this country, or as one of our favorite presidents, Ronald Reagan, said, we plunge into 1,000 years of darkness. This man's not going to let us plunge into 1,000 years of darkness. I told all of you when
Kiwi, what are you talking about? Yeah, Teresa, I think you would too. I really do. I haven't watched the Olympics in years. I don't give two shits about them. Sorry for whatever happened, but Kiwi, what are you talking about, smoky ladies? Let him answer, Andy. And be honest. Because I really don't get what you're saying. That don't make sense. Saucy is not like smoky. I think you're backpedaling there, oh Kiwi. Are you saying because she's light-skinned? Because saucy is not attractive. No, you're not being honest. Saucy and smoky are not the same thing.
I spoke earlier, we have 3.5 months to fight what 3.5 years of Biden and Kamala have done to this country. And I think you can see the enthusiasm. I think we're going to win this one, don't you?
Yeah,
Let's
Kiwi
do
sounds
everything
good,
in our
doesn't it?
power to get President Trump and J.D. Vance as president and vice president and Carrie Lake as U.S. Senator. Let's go, Arizona. Let's go, Arizona. Trump, Vance, 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 Trump,
Wow. You guys are so lucky to get to vote for Carrie Lake to be your next United States Senator. Wow. Just amazing. God bless you, ma'am. We do have some Ohio representation in this room, right? Now, here's one of the reasons I love Carrie Lake. You heard her talk about the lobbyists in the swamp. For decades, politicians in Washington have sold out our country. When multinational corporations called their offices with those lobbyists, Carrie, they traded American jobs for campaign cash. Now, they never admit this, of course. They wouldn't put it like that. They brag about trade deals and promise cheap products. They called it globalization, and that's what it was. American jobs went to some other part of the globe instead of staying here for our own citizens. And if it's up to Kamala Harris, it's going to keep on happening. She voted to preserve NAFTA, the very trade deal that sent American jobs to Mexico and turned American dreams into nightmares. And now she wants a promotion. Well, I think it's time to tell Kamala Harris, you're fired. I want the American dream as a goal for our children. And you never hear politicians talk about the American dream anymore. 4 years ago, you did. And 4 years from now, we're going to make more and more of those American dreams a reality. We are going to bring it back, bring the American dream back, build upon it, and fight for it. So let's talk a little bit about what we believe in this room and what we believe on this ticket. We believe that 1 million cheap plastic toys from China isn't worth a single American manufacturing job. We believe that we're going to rebuild American factories, rebuild the American dream, and stamp more and more products with made in the USA. Now, I've seen the consequences of electing failed politicians like Kamala Harris. I've seen it in my own hometown. Because more often than not, it's the ones the Bible calls the least of these who suffer the most under Kamala Harris's policies. Now, some of you know a little bit about my background and my biography, but I grew up in a town that was really struggling thanks to the failed politicians in Washington. And I was able to achieve my dreams. I was able to go to school and join the Marine Corps and build a beautiful family. I've got a beautiful wife and 3 beautiful kids, and that was my American dream. It was always to be a good husband and a good dad. Thank you. Now, people ask, why did it work out for you? And a little bit of it's luck. A little bit of it is that we live in the greatest country in the world where big dreams are still possible, whatever side of the tracks you grew up on. But a little of it, if I'm being honest, is because I had a tough old bird, my grandmother, I called her Mamaw, who stood by me every step of the way. Now, I remember there's so many stories I could tell about Mamaw, but one of my favorites is when I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. Mamaw was very proud of me, but it was 2003, a time of war. She was not exactly excited about her youngest grandchild going to serve in the Marines. So when the recruiter came over to tell her what boot camp was going to be like, he started to walk up the steps to her porch, and she said, "If you step one more foot on my porch, I'm going to blow it off." And she had 19 handguns at home. That was not an idle threat. So I had a strong woman who made me who I am and gave me.
She was born and raised in Kentucky. She's a hillbilly.
Strong grandmas and a lot of strong moms out there. Now, I want to talk about another strong woman, a woman we heard from at the RNC convention. Sarah Workman inspired all of us at the RNC with a story of faith and resilience. So we remember Sarah's story. Y'all watch that? It was amazing. She's a proud Arizonan and a great supporter of President Trump. And Sarah, if you would, I hope I'm not embarrassing. I'd love if you come and said a few words. Let's give Sarah a round of applause.
Oh, boy. Thank you, JD. Oh, wow. God is a trip, and that is my LA lingo for you. Okay. I've been very inspired by JD's story because it's one, I haven't personally had parents struggle with it, but my ex-husband has for almost 9 years now. And I have an 11-year-old son named Elliot. And so we've walked a really long, dark road dealing with his addiction and, our divorce and all of that. But God is faithful. And I'm so thankful that we have Donald Trump and JD as examples for us, as people to represent us against, again, how I said earlier, that this is a battle of good and evil. And I'm so grateful. Again, JD is the American dream. His story is the American dream. It gives me hope to keep moving forward and be encouraged. I hope all of us are encouraged because Donald Trump and JD Vance are going to make America great again. So give it up for JD.
Wow. So I had to follow Carrie Lake, and now I've got to follow Sarah. That is a tough act, isn't it? But look, what an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. And I want to talk a little bit about just the American dream, because it is under threat in our country. And when I talk about going from a poor family in Ohio to standing up here before all of you, what a great example of what this country makes possible that I'm here asking to be your next vice president of the United States, isn't it? I mean, isn't that such a cool thing? But I hate to say this because Kamala Harris is such a disaster that the dreams we have for our country and for our families, they are on the ballot in November. And this is why we have got to reelect Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. We've got to do everything that we can to get President Trump over that finish line. The contrast could not be more clear. Kamala Harris's vision is for closed factories and open borders. It's a government So big it can tell you what to do, but bank accounts that are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, Donald Trump delivered, not just talked about it. This isn't just his vision, it's what he actually did. He delivered rising wages and a strong border. What an amazing track record to run on. Kamala Harris wants to ban fracking and buy energy from every dictator around the world. Donald Trump wants to drill, baby, drill. Get American energy from
There you go,
American
Jules.
workers in American land. Kamala Harris wants to raise your taxes and make it easier to ship jobs to China and to Mexico. Donald Trump wants to lower the taxes for hardworking Americans and reward the companies that hire American and build American. Kamala Harris wants to defund the police and the violent criminals who make our streets less safe. Donald Trump, he's going to lock up the bad guys and back the blue, which is what all of us in this room believe. Now, I want to speak to all of you in the audience and anybody watching who's struggling today. If you're scraping by instead of thriving, I know what that feels like. I know what it's like to choose between paying off the credit card debt or buying groceries. I know what it's like to watch families fall apart under financial stress. And I know what it's like to worry that a parent will never kick that habit, that fear that the habit they have, whether it's drugs or alcohol, is going to eventually claim their life. But I also know that our national motto is "In God We Trust," and God tells us to hope and not despair. And while the media loves to lie about this movement and this party, this movement of ours is about a very simple idea, that we love this country enough to fight for a better future for our kids and our grandkids. That's it. It's simple. And we all know in this room that the best way to give our people hope for the future, the best way to preserve that American dream, the best way to give our kids that better life is to re-elect Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. And Kamala Harris, she offers to lead us to a place of despair. So let me ask you, do we want open borders in this country? Do we want to bankrupt Medicare by giving it to illegal aliens? Do we want to defund the police? Do we want to ban fracking? Do we want a dangerous San Francisco liberal like Kamala Harris? Instead, in just a few months, Arizona is going to lead a great American restoration, a restoration of American safety, of American prosperity, and American hope. We're going to secure our border and stop the endless flow of drugs and crime into our communities. We're going to bring down the cost of food and housing so that young Americans can afford to start a family and put that family in a beautiful home. We're going to end the radical environmentalist nonsense and restore American energy dominance. We are going to turn this country into a manufacturing superpower once again. We're going to cut taxes for working families, including on tips for our servers and on Social Security for our seniors. We're going to secure peace through strength and make sure our allies do their part. We will, in short, make America great again. It's going to start in Arizona and spread like wildfire all across our country. Let's go elect Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. God bless you all, and thank you so much. I love you, Arizona. Thank you for having me.
3 of the 5 9/11 defendants at
Sorry, my dogs are barking. Jules, that's motherfucking facts, ain't it? That is facts. I got a playlist of this stuff about the 9/11 and stuff. Like one of the moms here reacts to it, and I'm gonna let some of this play. We're gonna listen to it.
Guantanamo Bay have reached a plea agreement with prosecutors, one of them Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. The agreement comes more than 16 years after the prosecution began and nearly 23 years since the September 11th attacks.
Tonight, we are hearing reaction from loved ones of those killed on 9/11. Our Jennifer Lee reports tonight from Bucks County.
He was a cute kid who had $1 million smile.
That $1 million smile seen in photos from when Joshua Reese was a little boy, to his days as a newspaper carrier, and on the day he graduated from the University of South Carolina. His mother, Judy, says her son landed his dream job shortly after at Cantor Fitzgerald in the World Trade Center.
He was on top of the world. He was so happy. We spoke to him the night before.
Joshua was one of nearly 3,000 people killed during the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Now, 23 years later, the mastermind behind the attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and 2 other 9/11 defendants have agreed to plead guilty, according to the Department of Defense, to avoid the death penalty.
Emotionally, a slow, painful death would have been fine for me. I'll be honest. But rationally, I don't want to make martyrs of these people.
While it may not be likely, Judy has strong feelings to keep the accused men at Guantanamo Bay to serve out their life sentences.
Don't want them to be in a mixed population because they didn't get there if they weren't charismatic in some way. And there are people that will be attracted to that will get out.
From relief to anger, there are a lot of mixed emotions, but Judy says her family needs closure.
My son deserves justice. Justice is not perfect. Sometimes we make mistakes. I know that. But I think the fact that they are going to plead to be guilty to these charges, at least that's there.
In Bucks County, Jennifer Lee, Fox 29.
I couldn't imagine what they're feeling, man. That's horrible. It's horrible. Let's see here. Okay, we're gonna watch this here about it. This is on Bloomberg podcast. Let's see. Right, Teresa. It shook the whole world, man. It's crazy.
This is Bloomberg Law with June Grosso from Bloomberg Radio.
The man accused of being the mastermind of the September 11th attacks is getting a plea deal that will allow him to avoid the death penalty, a dramatic and to many unwelcome development in the prosecution of the deadliest terrorist attack on U.S. soil that's dragged on for decades. The Pentagon announced that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 2 of his accomplices will plead guilty to the murder of 2,976 people in exchange for a life sentence. Terry Strana, the head of the 9/11 Families United group, told DW News that the vast majority of the families are angry and feel that justice was denied.
He will not stand trial and he will not face a punishment by death, which is what was on the table. So this is something that KSM and the others wanted. So it's a victory for them. And I don't feel like we should ever give them a victory. This is a sign of very weak leadership in our country to strike such a deal that like I just said, a vast majority of family members do not support, do not want, and we do not want him to have this victory.
This plea deal only affects 3 of the 5 alleged 9/11 conspirators being held at Guantanamo Bay. Joining me is Matthew Waxman, a professor at Columbia Law School. Why have the trials of these 9/11 defendants been delayed for decades?
So right from the start, I think the military commissions that were set up to prosecute detainees at Guantanamo for war crimes have been a failed policy. They were supposed to be set up in order to provide swift justice, but they've delivered anything but that. And I think there have been a number of problems that have slowed down the prosecutions, and especially these that are subject to this plea deal. When detainees were captured, whether on the battlefield or elsewhere, those agencies that picked them up were not preparing a case for trial. They weren't collecting evidence as you would in order to prosecute a criminal trial. There have been issues of evidence or confessions that have been obtained allegedly by torture. There are legal challenges that have been made, some of which have gone all the way up to the Supreme Court, that have slowed down the process. And whenever you set up an entirely new court system, you have to basically develop all kinds of rules and processes from scratch.
Tell us about the alleged mastermind, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
So KSM, and he's usually known by those initials, is accused of plotting the attacks of September 11th, 2001. He's one of 30 detainees who are still held at Guantanamo. And he was a U.S. trained engineer who becomes a key leader of Al Qaeda. And he and two of his accomplices have agreed to this plea deal. They've been charged, among other things, with murdering 3,000 people in the September 11th attacks. And the basic terms of the plea deal are that they will plead guilty to murder and other charges in return for a life sentence rather than the possibility of a death penalty.
I can see what the defendants are getting out of this deal, but what is the government getting out of this deal?
I think it's a good deal for the government, and here's why. I'll be glad to see this case put to rest. I doubt this case would ever have been concluded if it proceeded, and actually carrying out a death sentence would have been a disaster, however much they may deserve it. So let me just say I'm conflicted on the death penalty because these are some of the worst people on earth who've committed unspeakable horrors. But I think actually carrying out a death sentence in this case would have been a disaster. I do feel for families of the September 11th victims who have had to endure the pain, especially of watching this unfold. And I know that they want finality, and many of them are very supportive of the death penalty. But even if it were carried out, and I'm very skeptical that the government would actually have been able to impose the death penalty, I think in this case it would make a martyr of these detainees. I think the story would understandably be that the United States has put to death somebody who's been subjected to torture. That would only add to the terrible stain of Guantanamo and the CIA enhanced interrogation policy.
You mentioned the families. Terry Strada, the head of one group of families, said, for me personally, I wanted to see a trial and they took away the justice I was expecting, a trial and the punishment.
Something
And
just
Brett
don't
Edelson,
feel
president
right,
of
Jules.
9/11 Justice, said, we're deeply troubled by these plea deals. Should the government go ahead with a plea deal that so many of the family members disagree with?
Well, this is a terrible dilemma for the government. And as I've said, I very much feel for the families who have had to endure not just the unspeakable pain of the deaths of their loved ones, but now 20 years of this process dragging on. I do hope that they feel some sense of justice, but there are other very powerful concerns and interests at stake here. And the U.S. government has to do what's right, taking into account all of these various factors. As I said, I don't think the death penalty ever would have been carried out in this case. And I think carrying out would have carried immense damage to United States interests, especially abroad.
Last September, ABC News reported that President Biden rejected a set of demands that would form the basis for plea negotiations offered by the 5 defendants, and that included avoiding solitary confinement. Why is the government not releasing the details of this? Might it be because some of the details might be objectionable?
I suspect some of the details are still being worked out. I think some of them will need to be approved by the military commissions and through some other processes. But this is also one of the challenges of moving a case like this through a military justice process that hasn't really been tested. A lot of what's going on in military commissions is new. And so we don't know for sure how some of these processes are going to play out. That's been one of the problems plaguing military commissions from the beginning, is that this is an untested process.
And 2 other 9/11 defendants are not participating in these agreements?
That's right. For several years now, it's been reported that a deal like this has been in the works, some sort of plea deal for a life sentence in return for pleading guilty rather than the possibility of the death penalty. Originally, it was talked about as possibly involving 5 of the direct perpetrators or leaders of the 9/11 attack plot. I don't know why we're now talking about a deal involving only 3, but over the course of the last few years, we've heard that this deal is sort of on again, off again. And so there are any number of possible reasons why.
Looking at the big picture here, the government is disappointing most of the family members with this deal. It's only for 3 out of the 5 conspirators. They're getting a life sentence for the murder of 3,000 people. After 20 years, doesn't this seem like a complete failure on the part of the government?
So right now, there are 30 detainees out of a total of roughly 800 who were brought to Guantanamo since it opened in 2002. Most of them have been transferred or released, some of them to their home countries, some of them to third countries with varying restrictions. Some of them were transferred for continued detention, for example, in their home countries. Of those who remain at Guantanamo, about half have also been approved for some sort of transfer, but we don't know whether that will happen anytime soon. A few, though, will never be charged. They're going to be held indefinitely without any sort of prosecution. I think the Guantanamo has been a failed policy. It was originally opened to be a place that would hold only the very worst of the worst. And it turned out that many detainees who were brought there should never have been. Either they were cases like mistaken identity, or they were low-level al-Qaeda or Taliban figures. It was also supposed to be an interrogation and intelligence center where the government would be able to obtain a vast amount of information about future al-Qaeda plots and networks. And I think it failed in both its detention mission and its intelligence mission. That doesn't mean that it was not valuable in some important ways. It kept many very, very, very dangerous people off the battlefield and prevented them from conducting further attacks. It also did provide some important intelligence information, never as much as I think was expected, but it did provide some very, very important information. But from the beginning, there was never really a good plan for what was going to happen to the detainees long term. There were insufficient processes put in place for figuring out which detainees should be detained there and which ones shouldn't. It is indelibly associated with this idea of a legal black hole and with torture. And I think many of those costs continue to accrue over time.
The plea deals are expected to take place as soon as next week, so perhaps we'll learn more then. Thanks so much for being on the show. That's Professor Matthew Waxman of Columbia Law School. Coming up next on the Bloomberg Law Show, the rogue Fifth Circuit is at it again, finding an $8 billion a year FCC program to boost phone and broadband services for poor and rural communities unconstitutional. I'm June Grosso, and you're listening to Bloomberg. The ultra-conservative rogue Fifth Circuit has done it again, plotting a novel legal path in another attempt to limit federal agency power, this time by limiting Congress's ability to delegate decision-making to regulators. In a 9-7 en banc decision, the appellate court ruled against an $8 billion a year FCC program intended to boost phone and broadband service for poor and rural communities, finding that it's an unconstitutional delegation of Congress's taxing authority. The decision is contrary to decisions by 3 other circuits, making the Fifth Circuit once again an outlier. Joining me is John Bergmeyer, legal director at Public Knowledge. So at the center of this case is the FCC's Universal Service Fund. Tell us about that.
Sure. About the Universal Service Program, which has been in place really for decades now, which traditionally was, seen primarily as a telephone program for ensuring that everyone has access to telephone service, but increasingly is seen as a program to ensure universal access to broadband. And what it means is that telecommunications companies, like telephone companies traditionally, are assessed a charge that they have to pay. They do tend to sort of put it on consumers' bills and kind of make people think it's like a tax on consumers directly, but it's not. It is a charge that is on the telecommunications companies themselves. And then the money that they pay goes into a fund. And then the fund is used to subsidize broadband and telephone service to areas where it might not be economical. So rural areas where it's hard to make a business case to invest might help out there. It also helps low-income people. So there's something called the Lifeline and Link Up programs that make communication services more affordable. And it's also used to help provide broadband to anchor institutions like schools and libraries. So it's really part of making sure that the country as a whole and everyone in it, kind of regardless of where you live, has access to telecommunications, because it's one of the things that ties the country together. Something that is really seen as benefiting not just the people who are getting access to communication services that they otherwise might not have access to, but it really helps the nation as a whole. I mean, just like it's good that you can send mail to rural Alaska with a stamp and you can communicate with them. That's like a benefit to people even who live in cities. It's seen as sort of like a benefit for everyone.
This was passed in 1996, and as you say, it's been ongoing. Why are there challenges to it now?
Well, there is an activist group called Consumers Research that has been filing lawsuit after lawsuit attempting to challenge this, and they've lost in every court really up until now.
Is this related to 9/11, or is this a different topic? I'm confused here. It don't sound like it's to do with 9/11 because it's a totally different person too. Okay, I'm going to stop that. Let's see here. 1 second. Jules, I don't think it was nothing to do with that. We're gonna continue on because he was talking about the 90s and stuff. And see here, hold on a second. We'll continue. I got more.
Gerard Felitti. He's a senior counsel at the Lawfare Project and a human rights attorney with extensive experience in terrorism, financing, international litigation, et cetera. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right. So I understand the position that I am taking here is not a popular one. Explain to me why it's not the right one.
Well, it's not the completely right one. Right now, the biggest outrage is what happened. That's the superficial outrage, that a man who was responsible for the deaths of almost 3,000 people, who boasted that he decapitated the Wall Street Journal reporter Daniel Pearl, that spent so many years trying to get to trial in the system, was basically getting away with a plea deal where we don't have transparency. This is a closed door agreement, essentially. And even though there's a promise to answer some questions to families, there's no crucial information that's being provided. There's no chance to get the full truth for the victims' families, the people of New York who endured this, or the American public. That's the superficial outrage.
Yeah, I know it's in
this
Cuba.
is someone who seems to be getting away, even though he has been held for many years now, without being held fully to account in a military tribunal.
But you mentioned something there that I think is relevant, right? Which is that part of this deal is that the defendants have to answer written questions from the families, right? Now, look, we don't know if they're going to be honest, et cetera, but I'm trying to figure out what exactly would have come out in this trial that we can't get elsewhere. Meaning the families are suing in a civil court for the Saudis' role in this. They're trying to get money from the Saudis, et cetera. Isn't that where the information would come out about the Saudis' role?
Well, the information of the Saudis' role will have come out in this criminal trial. And as you know, that oftentimes when you have civil litigation following a criminal incident, families bootstrap on the evidence that comes out during the criminal tribunal, during the criminal trial, which is often very helpful for families to make their case about civil liability. In this case, we don't have that. We don't get to see the government put on its evidence or the defendant rebut it. We don't get to see what arguments are made or what evidence there is. This is essentially settled with a plea agreement. And that's something that the families may never get to see, even if they request the information through FOIAs.
Yeah, and I get it. I get the frustration from the families, but it does seem to me at some point, because of the torture, right? I'm not making a judgment for now about it. It happened, and it has, quote unquote, tainted the trial and the ability to try them. Okay. Because of that, it has made it nearly impossible to have a trial for him. So why isn't this an acceptable outcome. The idea they're going to admit their responsibility, they're going to answer questions from the family, they're going to get life in prison without the possibility of parole, and they're going to stay at Guantanamo Bay. It just doesn't seem to me as bad as some are portraying it.
I think in part, the answers that the families might get, there's no indicia that these will be reliable or honest or anything else. And it's not the same as proof that comes out that is introduced during trial, proof that a judge credits or that a jury credits as being accurate. So there's a big distinction between what a self-serving statement someone like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed may make and what proof comes out at trial. But the real issue here is, I said at the beginning, this is a superficial outrage, because we also need to be outraged that we got to the point that these people could not be brought fully to trial because of mistakes made by the Bush administration. They never looked at this as a criminal case in order to preserve evidence and put on a trial. They were more concerned with getting information, not caring about that. So there are mistakes to be shared, and the outrage is not just from today or yesterday. This goes back to 2006.
Right. But I would say that there was a pretty good argument as to why we needed as much information as possible. It doesn't mean that you get to justify how they did it, when they did it, et cetera. Look, these are tough issues. We had you on the show because I get that this is not an easy call here. Gerard, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.
Welcome back. I'm Austin Westfall. Let's continue on with what we were discussing before the break. 3 men accused of helping plot the 9/11 terror attacks, including alleged mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, have struck plea deals that'll allow them to skirt the death penalty, according to the Department of Defense. Dan Caldwell is the author of Vortex of Conflict, U.S. Policy Toward Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq, and a distinguished professor of political science emeritus at Pepperdine University. Dan, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. A lot to get to on this one, but first off, I think it's important to remind the audience, who is Mohammed and why is he important?
Yeah, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was really, he became Osama bin Laden's right-hand man. But even before September 11th, he had been involved in a number of different terrorist activities, including the Richard Reed shoe bombing incident, where a terrorist boarded an airplane with explosives hidden in his shoes. He was involved in the 2002 Bali bombings in Indonesia. And according to reports, he is the one who killed Wall Street Journal reporter Daniel Pearl. And in addition to that, he conceived of an earlier plan to blow up 12 airliners in Asia that would have killed 5,000 people. And his nephew was involved in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, in which 100 people were killed and 1,000 were.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
He was really central to the terrorist activities of Al-Qaeda for really almost a decade.
So, Dan, why has the trial of him and other 9/11 conspirators been delayed for such a long time? Why are we just hearing about this now?
The complexities of the issues surrounding the trial, I think, are enormous. And I think there was real conflict, real tension between trying to get as much information as possible, as quickly as possible after 9/11 to prevent any further attacks. And then secondly, to observe the legal procedures of the United States. And those two objectives were really in conflict with one another. In addition to that was the question of whether those captured on the battlefield in Afghanistan should be treated as soldiers and be given the rights of the Geneva Conventions. So there were just a lot of complexities surrounding the trials. But I think that the basic tension was the tension between trying to get as much information as quickly as possible to prevent further terrorist attacks, and the attempt to observe American legal procedures.
You know, how do you feel about the fact that this case won't go to trial for the death penalty? Could we have learned anything from such a trial if it had went forward?
Well, I think that, again, the complexities were enormous, whether the accused would be tried by a military.
This is interesting as hell.
It turned out that military tribunals were established to conduct the trials. And I think the United States government in particular was anxious to keep any of the accused criminals out of the United States, because then they would have been accorded American legal rights, which is one reason that they were sent to Guantanamo, which is obviously not in the United States, nor is it U.S. territory. So some of the procedures that the accused would have been accorded had they been in the United States were bypassed by sending them to Guantanamo.
Is this disappointing families of 9/11 victims?
I think it's enormously disappointing to the almost 3,000 families who had loved ones killed in the 9/11 attacks. And certainly one can understand that emotionally.
Jules, my little brother, he was in the National Guard. And he went to his basic AI training in Fort Leonard Wood, and I went to Fort Leonard Wood to watch his graduation. I had to stop it because I seen you say Fort Leonard Wood. That was in like 2010, 2011 when I went. Hey, Megs. Hey, love. Yeah, see, I don't know about all this. I don't, because I never, like I said, a lot of stuff I've just gotten into all the government and politics and all this in the past 2 years, and I want to know it all. I mean, it takes me a little while to learn, well, to comprehend, because I like in 2008. Oh, that's cool, Jules. It's beautiful there, isn't it? Down in the Ozarks. Yeah. But my brother was just in the National Guard. He didn't go fight or nothing, but yeah, he went to like his like monthly things at, I think it's Fort Rucker. It's Fort Rucker, Alabama. But yeah, I went in that big auditorium. It was so surreal. And they was selling the DVDs, you know, of all the pictures and the videos, and it was amazing to see. But I loved whenever they brought them in the big covered trucks, and they got out of the back of the trucks, and it was just, I actually have a picture. I'll try to find it of me and him when I went.
And personally, and yet these complexities have gotten in the way of a simple murder trial, for instance, in the United States. But I think we'll hear a lot of, I think, disappointment on the part of families who were killed in 9/11.
As you mentioned, Mohammed has been held at Guantanamo Bay along with several other 9/11 conspirators. I know you have visited Guantanamo yourself. What did you learn?
Yeah, I went to Guantanamo under the auspices of the Department of Defense just to observe operations there. And it was a very interesting trip, particularly given the fact that I had been a visitor at a California maximum security prison, Soledad, through a prison visitation program sponsored by my church. So it was very interesting to contrast a California maximum security prison with Guantanamo. And I would say that the physical surroundings of Guantanamo were in fact better than Soledad prison in California, partially because the facilities were newly built, they were modern. I did not see the so-called Camp Delta where the high value prisoners were kept, so I can't comment on that. But I learned that there were a number of what I called a number of Guantanamos. So there was the Guantanamo of the Cubans. The United States got Guantanamo Naval Base from Cuba after the Spanish-American War in 1903. And until the Cuban Revolution, 1959, a number of Cubans worked on the base. And as of 2007, there were still 3 elderly Cubans who crossed into Guantanamo Naval Base on a daily basis. There is the Guantanamo of the American military staff members who served under very difficult circumstances. They were, I think, harassed by the prisoners. They were spit on, urine, feces were thrown on them, and yet they were expected to maintain a professional demeanor. And of course, there was the Guantanamo of the detainees themselves. At the high point, there were almost 800 detainees at Guantanamo, and about 740 of those 780 detainees have been transferred out now. And at the present time, only 30 detainees remain. And the process of the detention center being opened, about 10 died. So
That's interesting,
right
Jules.
now, there are only 30 detainees left. And of the 780 who were kept at Guantanamo, only 16 were charged with crimes. So the 3 that we're talking about now are 3 of the 16 who were actually charged with criminal activity.
Other than the 3 9/11 conspirators that reached the deal today, are there other 9/11 conspirators that are still at Guantanamo today?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the identity of the other 13 detainees who are left in Guantanamo, so I can't really comment on that.
Is it clear whether Mohammed and other conspirators will stay at Guantanamo after today? Has there been discussion about moving them?
There's been discussion. I don't think there's a clear decision, although President Biden pledged that he wanted to close Guantanamo by the end of his term.
Something is going on. Something don't feel right. You agree, Jules? Something.
And if they were transferred to the U.S., they would, as I was indicating earlier, be able to sort of reap the advantages of the American legal process in the U.S.
I know there's been plenty of discussion about closing Guantanamo over the years. Have those talks largely stalled, does it feel?
Well, it has become a political question. President Obama first announced his intention to close Guantanamo. That obviously didn't happen. Former President Trump announced that he wanted to leave Guantanamo open for the foreseeable future. And as I indicated, President Biden has indicated that he wanted to close it by the end of his term. I would add that and this is a secondary issue, but I think one that needs to be taken into account, to leave open the detention center for what will be, after this plea deal, 13 detainees is enormously expensive. And I think there will be some.
All right, enough of that. Something just don't feel right. I heard that, Jules. What's that new footage one there? Do I have that? Jules, here is a picture of me and my brother whenever I went to, God, this was years ago. This is my little brother. Yeah, that was in Fort Leonard Wood when I went to his basic AIT graduation. I had so much fun. God, I was young there. Yeah, that's my little brother. I was so proud of him. There is something weird going on. Most definitely. Yeah, that's my little bro. He's like 6'4" or 6'2". My son is 6'4". Or no, he might be same height as my son. Yeah, because I'm 5'6" almost. 5'5.5", 5'6". Yeah, I was so proud of him. Because after our mom passed away, we both got on drugs and and all that, and that's why he went and joined the National Guard. And I was so fucking proud of him this day, and he done it. And that's my brother. I want to. Y'all see how it says 9/11 families call on Biden and Trump to address new footage? What new footage? Let's watch that. That's weird. You're 5'2", Jules? Well, I used to be closer to 5'6", and I swear you do shrink as you get older because I'm like more at 5'5" now. But I'm long-legged. Yeah, my son is 6'4". My dad's 6'1". It's all the men are tall in my family. Yeah. Dynamite comes in small packages. You're 5'4", Truly? Aw. Yeah, my son, I can't believe how big he is. He weighed 5 pounds, 7 ounces, 19 inches long when he was born, and now he's over 200 pounds and 6'4". It's crazy. A little bitty 5-pound baby. And he's taller than my brother, bigger than my brother. My brother's 4 years younger than me. I used to be able to whoop my brother's ass. Man, we would fight when we were little. My mom and dad's side are truly. My grandmother on my dad's side was 5'9", 5'10", and then all the men on my mom's side were tall. Or tall was whatever. Yeah, my brother's tall and slender. I'm not. I don't know what average height is for a woman, but I've always been small my whole life. Then I got off the road and got my mental health right, and the medicines made me gain weight, and I love it because I finally got a little bit of booty and boobies. But let's watch this.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. Time right now is 10:37 Eastern, 7:37 Pacific. And we do have some breaking news out of New York City as family members of those who lost their lives in the September 11th terrorist attacks are calling on President Biden and former President Trump to address explosive revelations of new footage showing a Saudi intelligence agent assisting two of the lead terrorist hijackers. And we do want to head over to that live press conference for you right now.
With my colleagues in both parties to get the American Victims of Terror Compensation Act and the September 11th Day of Remembrance Act passed and signed into law. We owe nothing less to these families. Justice for 9/11 families means we must ensure they receive the full compensation they are due for their losses and for their health care needs. But it also means getting them the answers that they and the American people deserve. The video filmed by Saudi intelligence agent Omar al-Bayoumi, only just made public, that appears to show him casing the Capitol at the same time that the 9/11 attacks were being planned out, is incredibly disturbing and raises new questions about the number of and extent to which Saudi officials were involved in the September 11th terrorist attacks. These questions must be answered. We owe it to Brett and to all those loved ones on September 11th that we lost, to the victims, the survivors, to those who continued to be diagnosed with health effects from that terrible day, and to all Americans. I will continue to speak out, to demand answers, and to ensure that every individual with ties to this horrific attack on our country is brought to justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. We thank the words from Congressman Lawler. You know, as we stand here today, surrounded by family members of those who died horrifically and tragically in the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the flight in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
Go figure, Jules, right?
We're no longer searching for words of, you know, you're in our thoughts and prayers. We're no longer looking for to be coddled or comfort. We stand here pissed off. It's 23 years later, and our government has failed to bring us accountability, closure, and justice. Our government fails to talk tough on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Every member of Congress, especially
that's how I am,
candidates
Andy.
running for the highest office in this land, the two candidates running for president of the United States, President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump, need to be addressing this issue. There was a debate, if you want to call it a debate, less than a week ago, where these two candidates for president knew about the existence of this video, and neither one of them had the courage to stand with the 9/11 families and address this issue. Former President Trump campaigns on the fact that he puts America first. In 2016, he said live on Fox News, it wasn't Iraq that knocked down the towers. Somebody ought to open up the files. It was Saudi Arabia that knocked down the towers. In 2019, he invited myself and members of standing with me on this stage to the White House.
Right, Jules.
He promised he was going to help.
Trump will.
He said he was going to declassify the documents. He said we were right and just to pursue our actions against the kingdom. Keep going, he said. I am with you, he said. The next day,
I take
Seroquel,
and that's what makes me gain
secrets
weight.
Principle, keeping all of these documents under lock and key. President Joe Biden campaigned on the promise that he was going to make Saudi Arabia a pariah state. He wrote a letter to our families and our attorneys saying if he were elected president,
Jules. Trump's had so much shit going on.
It wasn't until pressure from these family members on the 20th anniversary of 9/11,
wasn't it the Georgia case,
his
Jules?
appearance at Ground Zero, that he enacted Presidential Executive Order 14040. But despite of the fact that he enacted that presidential executive order, guess what? We did not get the video that CBS obtained. It was the families, and it was our dogged pursuit of justice.
Truly, I take
We were
Zoloft
the
too,
ones that
so
were
that
able to obtain
might
this video. We didn't get this
contribute.
video from the United States government. We got this video from the British government. You could argue that the families did a better job investigating the attacks of 9/11 than the United States government, with its hundreds of billions of dollars
Oh, it
of
was
resources.
Florida, Andy?
The
Okay,
former
thank you.
deputy director of the CIA went live on Face the Nation and said he's never seen this video.
That's what I want to know, Jules. Where's it at?
The time for games and doubts about whether Saudi Arabia did it is over. This is a bipartisan issue. You just heard
The
from
deep
Congressman
state.
Mike Lawler, who's a Republican. Senator Blumenthal on the left side has been one of our biggest supporters. Senator Cornyn, Senator Grassley, Senator Gillibrand. There's no issue today in the United States politics that members of the left and right can agree on except this. And it's unconscionable that the two candidates for president of the United States are refusing to address this issue. They'd rather bury their heads in the sand than come out and stand with these 9/11 family members. It's been 23 years, and we're no longer looking for words of comfort. We're looking for justice, and we're looking for a champion who's going to put America first. We're sick of it. I won't say anything else before I start swearing, but I think Dennis had a couple comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to share my personal comments. Again, as Brett mentioned, the 9/11 community, with little help from our own Department of Justice, FBI, and government, was able to finally obtain smoking gun evidence of the. But now is the time for President Biden, former President Donald Trump, Congress, and the Senate to help us obtain justice, accountability, and closure from those who perpetrated the largest mass murder on American soil. In just the past week, President Biden stated that we are the United States of America. There is nothing we cannot achieve when we stand together. Then the next day, he said, we are the United States of America. We bow to no one. Well, we've been bowing to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the past 23 years. We've allowed them to get away with murdering 3,000 innocent Americans, murdering our Navy servicemen in Pensacola, Florida, murdering and dismembering a Washington Post reporter, ruin our institution of professional golf, manipulate our economy and presidential elections. President Biden also, in his speech last evening, talked about the January 6th protesters. They were held accountable for their actions that day, but not the people and government that actually tried to blow up the Capitol.
I think
and kill everyone in
J6
it.
is what opened this Pandora's box. I swear I do.
It's mind-boggling. My family and I took a tour of the Capitol building just 2 weeks ago. You cannot replace that building, the history there, nor the lives that would have been lost. There's a beautiful plaque memorial in the Capitol building honoring the heroes of Flight 93. These heroes, our loved ones, the first responders that are still dying from 9/11 related illness, deserve more than plaques and memorials.
Jules, I think Peter Navarro is the only one that's got out, ain't he?
Accountability and closure. The innocent Americans who were murdered on that horrific day would have done anything to get out of those buildings and planes. We're calling on our president, former President Donald Trump, all of our leaders and representatives in Washington to stand together, do something, and finally end this cat and mouse game, this national nightmare that we've been living for the last 23 years. Bring it to an end. We've been through enough. Thank you.
Yep, I think Peter Navarro is the only one that's been released. They're talking about who's it, Steve Bannon or whatever his name is. I made a little video actually about that a month ago. Okay, we'll watch one of mine. Let's see here. Oh, Putin, he's over there greeting his people.
Right. But just this happened a few hours ago. The Supreme Court ruled that Biden's Department of Justice has wrongly prosecuted hundreds of Americans for peacefully protesting on January 6th. Wow. Those people have been treated so badly, especially when you compare them with people that ripped apart and killed people in Portland. and in Seattle and in other places. They have been treated so badly. So we're asking, based on the decision, they should immediately be released, immediately, the J6 hostages.
I feel this is what's opened this. I don't know. I'll pause that. Fucking corrupt DOJ. I love Peter Navarro's speech at the RNC. That was a classic. His first word, y'all want to see my MAGA tattoo? And whenever he said, I went to prison so you didn't have to, that was just so powerful to me. And they tried to get him to turn on Trump and wasn't even like that. He's gonna get all of them out of there. And I don't know, I just feel like J6, all this coming out, the truth's gonna come out, and I feel like that's what's opened up some of this. Yep, Andy, I agree. I do know a little bit about J6. I do on that, and yeah, I don't know. Because look, right after that, Trump gets an attempted assassination, and all this, it's snowballing. I don't know. Something is fucking up. I just can't get over it.
And some more breaking news, this time about the January 6th rioters. The Supreme Court has just ruled. Let's get to Shannon Bream. What did they say?
So what they have said is that one of the statutes the Justice Department used to charge hundreds of different January 6 defendants is no good. And that includes President Donald Trump, because he has actually had 2 of these counts against him in the Jack Smith D.C. case against him, that federal criminal case that has been on hold here. So what essentially they say is this statute, which was passed in the wake of Enron, they say it doesn't fit here. He says, given that the subsection was enacted to address the Enron disaster, not some other far-flung set of dangers like what happened just right over here at the Capitol, it is unlikely that Congress responded with such an unfocused and grossly incommensurate patch in English that essentially means that all of these people who were charged under this particular obstruction statute for January 6th, that is no good. The dissent.
That's what I'm saying,
very
Andy.
interesting vote makeup, because the dissent is actually written by Justice Barrett, and she is joined by Justices Sotomayor and Kagan. She says that Congress did intend for this kind of conduct to be brought under this particular obstruction charge. She thinks the majority got it wrong, but what it means is a big headache for the DOJ and good news for hundreds of January 6 defendants charged under this statute, again, including.
Oh, here is video shows what a Saudi national film before. Hold on. Before the 9/11 terror attacks. This is on 60 Minutes. Is that the? I want to see this leaked video. Let's watch this. It's only 4 minutes long. Right, Shirley, something is up. Because right after that happened in Butler with Trump, then Biden got the big C word, and it's like stuff just keeps happening. It's like a snowball effect. And yeah, it's crazy. It's the deep state. I'm telling you, I totally believe what I know about the deep state. Yeah, I think so too, Jules. It's the only way they can stop Trump. You're good, truly. It quit storming here. That's the only way they can stop Trump. Like Trump says, it's not him they're after, it's us, and he's just standing in the way. They stole ballots, yep. That's why they want all them illegals in here, an open border, because that's votes for the Democrats, in my opinion. A video unsealed in federal court this week, this was a month ago, this came out, raises new questions about Saudi Arabia's connection to the deadly 9/11 terror attacks.
Voice on the video says in Arabic, "I am transmitting these scenes to you from the heart of the American capital, Washington." This video, unsealed in federal court this week and obtained by 60 Minutes, was recorded in the summer of 1999. The man behind the camera is Omar al-Bayoumi, who the FBI says was an operative of the Saudi intelligence service with close ties to two of the 9/11 hijackers.
Time is 6 p.m.
The video was filmed over several days. Bayoumi recorded entrances and exits of the Capitol, security posts, a model of the building, and nearby landmarks. In this portion of the video, Bayoumi points out the Washington Monument and says, "I will get over there and report to you in detail what is there." He also notes the airport is not far away.
I want to see
what
this
I
whole
see
video.
Bayoumi doing is going out and making a detailed video record of the Capitol from all its sides, and then conducting that 360-degree panoramic view. GS-11.
Richard Lambert is a retired FBI agent who led the initial 9/11 investigation in San Diego, where Bayoumi and the two hijackers lived temporarily before the attacks. He's now a consultant on the case filed by the 9/11 families.
If you've ever flown into Washington, D.C., one of the first things you see on the horizon is the Washington Monument. So if you know where your other targets are in terms of the Washington Monument, it helps guide you to your intended target.
Federal investigators believe the hijackers on Flight 93, which crashed near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, had the U.S. Capitol as their likely target. The lawyers for the 9/11 families and former intelligence analysts we spoke to believe portions of the video show Bayoumi surveilling the Capitol as part of that plan. And in the video, he references a, quote, plan.
You said that in the plan. What plan? Who is he talking to?
What do you think he's talking about?
I think he's talking to the Al-Qaeda planners who tasked him to take the pre-operational surveillance video of the intended target.
So this video is taken in late June and early July of 1999. What does that timing tell you?
Well, that means it was taken within 90 days of the time when senior Al-Qaeda planners reached the decision that the Capitol would be a target of the 9/11 attacks.
That's when Osama bin Laden decided to approve Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's so-called planes operation. In the days after 9/11, British police discovered the video during a raid on Bayoumi's UK apartment. They also seized Bayoumi's handwritten address book that the lawyers for the 9/11 families say was filled with phone numbers of numerous senior Saudi officials who were in the government at the time. And when Bayoumi filmed the Washington video, he was often with two Saudi diplomats who the FBI says had ties to Al-Qaeda, a finding the Saudi government disputes.
Well, it is another very large brick in a massive wall of evidence that at this point indicates the Saudi government was complicit in the 9/11 attacks.
Ken Williams is a retired FBI agent who led the 9/11 investigation in Phoenix, where one of the hijackers attended flight school. He's also a consultant on the case filed by the 9/11 families.
In terms of all the revelations that have come out as part of this 9/11 lawsuit, where does this video rank?
I think it ranks right at the top of the pile.
The government of Saudi Arabia says, nothing to see here. This is a tourist video. This is a guy out looking at the sights in Washington, D.C.
I would vehemently disagree with that. This is not a tourist video.
The British police are believed to have turned over the video to the FBI shortly after 9/11, which raises the question, why, after more than 20 years, is it just now surfacing?
Did somebody really mess this up? This seems like a really big thing to just being made public.
If that was missed, then shame on us for missing it. If it wasn't missed, then I would have to ask the question, what was done with it?
Did y'all hear that Iran is gonna fixing to attack Israel? Over the Hamas leader being killed? U.S. ready for Middle East war? What the fuck? U.S. expresses concern over escalating Middle East conflict risks. Whoa. It's like, what was it Trump told Putin? He'll take Moscow, you know, if they fuck with Israel. Or no, it was Ukraine, wasn't it? This shit's getting wild, y'all. It's like the whole fucking world is at war. This shit's fucking crazy. Hold on just a second here. That ain't gonna let me go back, but. This shit's crazy. Hold on just a second, you all. I remember that, Jules. And who was it? Akeem something. No, I haven't seen it, but I heard about it. I would like to see that. Let's watch a little bit on this because this is going on right now, and there's a live stream too. Because we support Israel, and all right, I will save that. I want to watch this a little bit first, and then we'll watch that. Because I just now noticed this, or found out about this.
Coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline, bracing for retaliation from Iran after deadly strikes on a Hamas and a Hezbollah leader, and coping with unthinkable loss. The Druze community of Majd el-Sham's in mourning for its children. Plus, keeping the dream alive for freedom to one day return to Iran. An exclusive interview with Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. All this and more coming up.
I agree, Andy.
Of Jerusalem
it's the end of times. I swear it is.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. Days after the elimination of top leaders in Hamas and Hezbollah, Israel is bracing for an expected retaliation. Yet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is warning that those who attack Israel will pay a steep price. Here's our report. On Wednesday, the funeral procession of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh made its way through the streets of Tehran. While Israel has not claimed responsibility for his death, the New York Times reports Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei has ordered a direct strike on Israel in retaliation for the attack on Iranian soil. A senior Hamas leader said Haniyeh's death affects ongoing negotiations between the terror group and the Jewish state.
There is no point in talking about ceasefire negotiations amid bloodshed and assassinations.
The IDF also confirmed the death of Mohammed Deif, Hamas's #2 leader in Gaza, on July 13th. In an address to the nation Wednesday night, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel is prepared for any
It was
retaliation.
said that they're after Trump, Jules,
There are challenging
and
days ahead of us.
behind
Since the attack
Butler.
in Beirut, threats have been heard from all sides. We are prepared for any scenario and will stand united and determined against any threat. Israel will exact a heavy price from any aggression against us on any front.
He emphasized Iran is the power behind all the threats.
Since the beginning of the war, I have conveyed that we are in a struggle against Iran's axis of evil. This is a war of existence against a stranglehold of terrorist armies and missiles that Iran wants to tighten around our necks.
U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said America will stand by Israel in the event of an attack.
If Israel is attacked, we certainly will help defend Israel. You saw us do that in April. You can expect to see us do that again.
Middle East expert Avi Melamed expects a calculated retaliation by Iran.
I don't think that
Is
the Iranians
he
are
on
going to
YouTube,
retaliate
Andy?
in the same way they did in April, but they will definitely look for some sort of like shocking, sort of speaking response that will be on the one hand powerful and send a message.
I
but on the
seen
other
that,
hand, we'll
Jules.
be very careful not to result in a dynamic that will actually result in an all-out war.
Melamed adds Israel is sending a message with these
You can
twin
drop
strikes.
the link,
It really
Andy,
is
and
a message to
I'll go
Iran as
sub
one
to
that
it.
says we are willing, able, and ready to be engaged in a whole out war, which is not something that I think the Iranian regime actually is interested in at this conjunction, at this time.
These latest crises come as Israel marks the 300th day since the October 7th attack. On the front page of the Jerusalem Post, it reads in English and Hebrew, "Our hope is not yet lost." In light of Ayatollah Khamenei's order of a direct strike on Israel, citizens, foreign nationals, businesses, and military personnel throughout the Middle East are preparing for the possibility of a regional war. Many expect Iran, along with its regional proxy groups, is preparing an even larger attack than when it launched more than 350 missiles, rockets, drones, and
This is
UAVs
scary.
into Israel on April 13th. The IDF's chief spokesman announced the military is on high alert for the possible attack that may come on multiple fronts all at once.
Both in defense and in attack, IDF forces are deployed in the air, at sea, and on land, and are prepared for any scenario, and especially for the attack plans in the immediate time frame.
With the prospect of an all-out war, on Thursday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with the Home Front Command. Former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Michael Oren, now back in uniform with the Israeli military, tells CBN News Israel is ready.
We are prepared for every possible contingency, every possible scenario, and anybody who strikes us will pay a very, very high price.
How would you describe the state of readiness of the IDF right now?
Very high. Very high. I'm talking to you from the north, from the northern border, and the level of alert here is very high.
Israel is coordinating with an international coalition to face potential attacks. And following a call between Netanyahu and President Biden, the U.S. said it's committed to Israel's security from Iranian threats and announced new U.S. military deployments. Iran's Speaker of Parliament blamed both Israel and the U.S. for the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran and vowed a massive retaliation at the proper time and place.
The uprising Zionist regime should know that it will pay a heavy price for this cowardly night
Thank you,
attack within
Andy.
the secure boundaries of the Islamic Republic.
The New York Times reporting that Haniyeh was killed by a bomb planted in his apartment 2 months ago. And Hezbollah is issuing threats as well. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah said Thursday Israel will weep for killing its top commander and warned that the war with Israel has entered a new phase.
The enemy and those behind the enemy must wait for our inevitable reaction. God willing, there is no discussion or controversy about this.
It is time to end the charade that the world is playing when it comes to Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. They're one and the same.
U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham is proposing a resolution that any escalation by Hezbollah against Israel should be viewed as an attack by Iran and says Israel should go on the offense.
It is time to hit the Ayatollah in the pocketbook. His oil refineries are the lifeblood of his regime. Without those refineries, they would not be able to fund terrorism.
Despite the anticipated attacks from multiple enemies, most Israelis are thrilled at the news that Israeli athletes won two medals at the Olympic Games in Paris. And many see this as a sign of Israeli resilience in the face of an existential threat. Coming up, a Druze community still in mourning for its children after Hezbollah's deadly missile attack. Israelis are pouring into the northern town of Majd al-Shams following the rocket attack that killed 12 children and wounded dozens of others. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl shows us how they're comforting the bereaved in the Druze village.
Black flags flutter around this Druze village of about 12,000 residents. Situated on the Golan Heights near the Lebanese and Syrian borders, residents are mourning.
It's a hard situation for their parents. We all panicked at home here. The entire village went into a panic. It's a difficult situation.
This is the soccer field where the children came to play and have fun on a Saturday afternoon. Instead, they met with a death and destruction that they didn't deserve.
My grandchildren are always on the soccer field, and all the time they want me to come and watch them play soccer. But on this day, they were sick and they couldn't go, so we stayed at home. It's too bad for every child that left this world. It's too bad for all our children, Druze, Christian, Jewish, Muslim. It's too bad for all the children.
Naeem Abu Jabal's brother had a grandson on the field that day. 9-year-old Rajwan remains hospitalized with shrapnel wounds from head to toe. His grandmother, who lives across the street, tells CBN News that everyone ran to the soccer field to help.
We want them to make peace, to stop the war. It's too bad. Nobody profits. Everyone loses. No one profits from war.
As the warning siren sounded, the children ran for the bomb shelter, but many didn't make it in time. The torn fence and blackened ground are now covered with pictures, trophies, and soccer balls in memory of the precious lives lost.
This is a tragedy, not only for Majd al-Shams, it's a tragedy for the state of Israel and all the world.
I
While
found
Mayor
him a
Dolan
sub.
Abu Saleh's extended family lost 4 children, he feels connected to all those killed and wounded.
We are turning to all the world. We are saying that if our children that we lost, if that can be a message for peace, and here in this very difficult incident, in this desolate incident, this massacre can stop, and everyone will have security, we will accept it. We already want peace and security in the whole area of the north, in all of the state of Israel, in all the world.
In nearby communities, memorials and business closures reflect their solidarity. Thousands of Jewish, Christian, and Muslim Israelis are coming here to show their support. A second memorial in Majd al-Shams attests to the close family atmosphere. IDF Lieutenant Colonel Gidon Harari, who is Jewish, lives 20 minutes away and regularly visits the town. He says it's a main hub in the region, whether or not you're Druze.
We have friends here. Actually, the Druze, for us, especially for people like me that we served for 25 years in the IDF, they are brothers in arms, and proud citizens of the state of Israel.
Retired IDF Colonel Hamada Ghanam says, following the attack and despite the danger, the Druze community has no intention of leaving.
Not just the residents on the Golan Heights. The Druze communities didn't leave and won't leave, despite the danger that exists, because it's their culture not to leave their communities.
Abu Saleh says this is a strong, united community, and while they have received help from the government, they will take a long time to heal.
We feel that despite our strength, despite our organization, this is an event that won't end in a month, but it will take a long time for us to recover from this terrible tragedy.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Majd al-Shams.
Still ahead, a warning to the West. Straight talk from Iran's Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi. Many insiders say the Iranian people are hungry for a change. That's the belief of the oldest son of the late Shah of Iran, the 63-year-old Crown Prince. And he told CBN's George Thomas that the current regime is weaker than ever and the country is ripe for a revolution.
Fight for freedom and liberties is a cause that never ends until it's done.
Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is warning the United States and Western powers to not be fooled by the election of Iran's new president, Masoud Pezeshkian.
We call this the circus of elections in Iran.
At 63, Pahlavi is the regime's most vocal and prominent critic. He calls Pezeshkian a lackey, handpicked by a radical Muslim system bent on keeping Iranians in a constant state of repression and fear.
In all these years, it really didn't matter who was presented because all the shots are finally called by Khamenei, the supreme leader.
During a wide-ranging interview, the eldest son of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran, told CBN News that Iranians are clamoring for political change like never before.
The regime's own figures demonstrate that at least 73% of the population want another form of government.
And I imagine the number is much higher than that, because if it was an actual open polling, you would probably even have in the 90 percentile range.
In 1979, as heir to the throne, Pahlavi was in the US training to be a fighter pilot when Muslim radical leaders forced his father to relinquish the monarchy, sending the entire family into exile. Pahlavi says the aftermath led to an Islamic-run regime that would devastate his ancestral homeland, where today 60% of the people live below the poverty line.
45 years of clerical rule in the name of religion, and the immediate element of persecution, and the fact that our country has fallen behind in terms of being on the route towards progress, because Iran by now should have been the South Korea of the Middle East. Instead, it's the North Korea of the region.
Under the mullah's reign, Iran has become a leading state sponsor of terrorism and the root cause of instability in the Middle East and beyond.
It finances Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Houthis, all in its proxy wars. And of course, it's all networks of activists that they have that are doing the bidding of the regime in the outside world, even in Western capitals.
45 years after the radical Muslim clerics took over the country, His Royal Highness says that the mullahs of Tehran are weaker than ever before and have lost their legitimacy in the eyes of a majority of Iranians.
When you lose your legitimacy, whether it's religious legitimacy or political legitimacy, then you're simply holding on by sheer repression. When you have a regime that is completely delegitimized, when you have people who no longer believe in the system, even if they did at some point and they want out, that makes these systems vulnerable.
Case in point, the 2022 nationwide protests that followed the murder of Mahsa Amini, detained by religious police for allegedly not properly wearing her mandatory hijab. Iranian security forces killed more than 500 protesters and imprisoned some 20,000 people. Pahlavi says this clearly shows Iranians are ready to sacrifice for revolution.
Nobody said that freedom comes for free. The price sometimes is extremely high. But are you willing to say that just because it's too expensive, I'm not going to purchase it and put up with what otherwise will be annihilation, demise? We don't have a choice. We have to do it. We have to do it for survival. We have to do it for sanity. We have to do it for humanity. We have to do it for our own interests, no matter what it takes.
Despite Iranian proxy attacks on U.S. troops in the Middle East, acceleration of its nuclear uranium enrichment program, and funding of Hezbollah and other terror groups, Pahlavi cannot understand why the Biden administration continues to keep billions of dollars flowing to the terror regime. He says it's time Western governments stop appeasing the mullahs of Tehran.
And what I have argued for years to foreign governments, particularly Western democracies, has been that your expectation of behavior change from the get-go was a false expectation, because you simply haven't recognized the DNA of this regime that needs to do all of it does in order to survive. It's not interested in the welfare of the Iranian people. It's simply aiming to export an ideology to dominate the whole world.
Pahlavi, who idealizes Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi for their pursuit of non-violent campaigns for political change, runs the National Council of Iran, whose mission is to replace the current Islamic-led regime with a secular democracy. He wants the world to focus on supporting Iranian people rather than keep coddling the regime's thugs.
Even those who believe that maybe we could try and bring reform from within slowly but surely have given up on this idea. Look, we cannot have a religious dictatorship in the 21st century. We have to go towards a secular democracy. So that's why I think the majority of Iranians find themselves in the same optic, in the same vision.
Knowing the history that you have with your beloved nation, do you ever say, you know what, I think this is too tough a fight. Too many innocent people's lives are being taken, and it's been 45 years. Do you ever despair?
There were moments in time that I wonder if South Africans would have given up, or people in the Eastern Bloc countries would have given up, and even dissidents in the Soviet Union would have given up. I haven't heard once a dissident anywhere in the planet say, you know what, I give up. You can't give up. It's not an option. And I think Iranians, the reason why they haven't given up, the reason why they go to the streets, the reason why they take the risk to be shot in the eye or continue to be murdered by the regime is because they know that the only way out is for us to succeed. And if they have to sacrifice themselves so that future generations will, have a better life, so be it.
Thank you, sir. George Thomas, CBN News, Washington.
Up next, support for Israel from friends in the
Or says there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. The Philippines is that brother to Israel, and that's been the case for almost 100 years. CBN Asia correspondent Lucille Tulusan reports on how support for Israel is being shown again publicly.
We decree and declare your word in Zechariah chapter 2, verse 5, that you would be the walls of fire surrounding Israel and the Philippines.
Church leaders took turns praying in front of the Israeli embassy in Metro Manila to launch the movement, Israel, You've Got a Friend.
This is the first Filipino public rally to show the Philippine support for Israel and to counter the rising anti-Semitic campaigns and rallies that's happening all over the world.
Friends of Israel, including Filipino church leaders and government officials, also recently showed their support, celebrating the country's 76th Independence Day. Israeli ambassador to the Philippines, Ilan Flus, highlighted its resiliency in the face of the ongoing war and the disturbing surge in global anti-Semitism.
Instead of focusing on those atrocities that happened on October 7, we have chosen to highlight a message of resilience, of heroism, and of hope, our unwavering determination to rebuild and revive our communities.
The ambassador commended the 28,000 Filipino workers in Israel who remained with their employers on October 7th when it was dangerous, as 4 even lost their lives. This also served as a testament of the historic relations between the two countries. In 1937, the Philippines welcomed 1,200 refugees who escaped the Holocaust. And in 1947, the Philippines became the only Asian country to vote for the establishment of Israel as a nation. This mutual bond also continues in the relationship between the Israeli Embassy and Operation Blessing Philippines. Through the years, it has supported various OB humanitarian projects such as medical missions and disaster relief operations. That includes sending a Filipino team to Israel at the height of the war with Hamas to provide care packages, food, and trauma counseling.
We are here for the long term, echoing the promise made by our founder, Dr. Pat Robertson, as he stood on the Mount of Olives when he said, whatever happens, CBN will stand and be in support of Israel.
Ambassador Flus also made this worldwide appeal.
I call you to support Israel. I call you to express this support over social media, have public activities and public events.
While rally participants may be small in number, they have helped tell Israel's story while also remembering the remaining hostages by releasing 120 balloons to signify hope and prayer for their safe return. Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Manila.
Jonathan Conricus is a senior fellow from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he spoke with us recently about what he sees as the major driver for the violent dynamic in the Middle East. Take a look.
There's not a single Israeli enemy within thousands of kilometers or thousands of miles that isn't funded and provided with weapons directly from Iran. If the Iranian regime falls, then the chances of peace and stability in the Middle East, they skyrocket by the power of 100. And as long as the Iranian regime is in power and has the money and weapons to continue to sow violence and instability in the region, then I fear that will be the case. And I hope that the Israeli government will understand the bigger strategic picture here and actually hold the Ayatollahs and the evil Iranian regime accountable for their actions against Israel.
You're there in the United States, Jonathan. What is your message to many of the people that you've been talking to?
Well, my message is one of fight. I mean, to adopt a stance and mentality of fighting back against aggressors and not tolerating violence or bullying or anti-Semitism.
Would you say it's safe to say that this is a battle that America is facing as well as Israel?
Not only America, Mitch. It's a battle of the free world, of democracy, of Judeo-Christian values, of law and order, and the respect for the sanctity of human life, and the respect for others. That is what Israel is facing. Like so many times in its past, Israel is simply at the front lines of Western civilization. We are in friction, constant friction with the enemies of Western civilization. And I think the West can thank Israel for being located exactly where it is and for having the fighting spirit to defend itself and, by extension, Western values.
Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember to follow us on social media, and you can
Yeah, it went off while that was playing, and I don't know. I can turn the gas off. I have a shut-off valve, and I turned it off. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Mine is built into the wall. Like, it don't have batteries. It's on electric. If that makes, it's wired into the wall. Like, I got the windows and shit open, and the gas is off. I got the windows and shit open and the gas off. That's That's the only thing it could be is the gas, right? Maybe I need a new meter or a new thing. Kind of like a thermostat for central heat and air and stuff. You know, you have to get a new one every now and then. Yeah, it don't have batteries. Carl, I'll send you a picture of it. Do you know anything about them? Of my carbon monoxide detector thingy. It's kind of freaking me the fuck out. I can't sleep with my windows open, man. I don't like that. It's like a rectangular one. It's literally, there's a hole in my wall and it's into it. Hold on, I'll see if I can take a picture and post it on here and show you what it looks like. But Winnie, quit, baby. Winnie keeps going nuts, my dog. Every time I go down there to... Where did I had a flashlight. Where the fuck did it go? Just a second, y'all. Winnie, quit! Hush it! Sorry, y'all, if I yell. She goes nuts over this. Over a flashlight. Hold on. Gotta get back down here where it's at. I get a good picture. Cause I ain't got a light down here. Hold on just a second. Winnie, get back. Here, I'll try to get the... Fuck, I don't... Oh my god damn it. I got my hair stuck in a fucking shelf. Winnie, honey, move. She's all tore up over it. Winnie is. Mama is too, Winnie. I can't... Try to get the writing on it, what it says. It says replaced by 60 months. Do not paint. Alarm will not operate without power. Green light must be on. Do not connect to wall switch controlled outlet. See, when it does it, the red and green light comes on. It says red, green, fault, or low voltage, default. What's that mean? I can't get a fucking good picture of it because Winnie's down here. She goes off on this fucking flashlight. Winifred, quit. Come on, Monroe, get up here. My dogs are going crazy. No, it's in my living room. And it's got this like little hole in it, you know, where it like detects. Jules, I'm going to text you a picture of it. Mine's propane. No, I don't smell it. Nothing's abnormal. Maybe I need a new thing. Jules, check your text messages, love. Nothing's abnormal at all. Shit, my thing came off. I was sitting here probably fucking talking to myself. No, it don't. Did you hear me say that about, no, it don't continuously beep. It'll beep like twice and then it'll stop. But I get to it in time and push that button where it says mute. You see it where it says test and mute on there, Jules? It's done it 3 times now. It ain't constant. I don't feel funny. I don't smell anything funny. Nothing's abnormal. Hey, Wacky. You better safe and sorry, right? Oh, right now it's still on green, and I'm gonna go get my blow dryer and like kind of blow, see if I can get some. Might have dust in it or something, or who knows? You know, the sensor. If it keeps doing it, I'm definitely gonna call. I got my door open, every window I have open, fans going, and I turned the gas off. Yeah. Yeah, Helen, I went outside and turned the propane off. Well, I'm going to get off here. Wacky, my carbon monoxide detector keeps going off, and I'm freaking the fuck out. I'm going to end this and see what happens, and because I can't think straight now because it went off again. I will, Helen. I promise. I promise. Yours went off too, Wacky? No fucking way. More than once? Are you serious? What the fuck is going on? I will, Jules. I promise I'll keep you updated, and for sure. I'm going to go and make sure again that the gas is off. That's wild. Yours went off too, Wacky. Winifred, stop it. It's what sucks about being alone. You know, it's like, what the fuck? I mean, I'm pretty smart and got common sense, but not when it comes to stuff like this. And I'm going to go up in smoke, Megs. There's your girl, Carl. He probably done left. He was looking for you, Megs. I'm going to play a song. I got to. Y'all know. I always do. At the end, and then I'm going to end it. Second. Just a second. I will, Megs. I'll keep, yeah, I will. All of y'all. I will text y'all. I promise. All of y'all. I did, Carl, earlier. But maybe I'll do it again. I'll make sure. Because it's about dark here. Let me play my song and I'm going to get out of here. Love y'all. I'll keep every one of you updated. Thank you.
Alan Jackson is a nominee for 4 of tonight's awards. And the songs that he writes, always tell it like it is. Simple truths that come from his heart. When he went to bed late last week, he couldn't sleep because of an idea that he had for this song. It kept running through his head. So early in the morning, he got up and he wrote this song. And we're honored that he chose to do it for the first time in front of anybody. Please welcome Mr. Alan Jackson.
Where were you when the world stopped turning that September day? Out in the yard, your wife and children working on some stage in L.A. Did you stand there in shock at the sight of that black smoke rising against that blue sky? Did you shout out in anger and fear for your neighbor? Or did you just sit down and cry? Did you weep for the children who lost their dear loved ones? Pray for the ones who don't know? Did you rejoice for the people who walked from the rubble and sob for the ones left below? Did you burst out in pride for the red, white, and blue? The heroes who died just doing what they do. Did you look up to heaven for some kind of answer and look at yourself and what really matters? I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I can tell you the difference in Iraq and Iran. But I know Jesus and I talk to God, and I remember this from when I was young. Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love. Where were you when the world stopped turning that September day? Teaching a class full of innocent children, driving down some cold interstate. Did you feel guilty cause you're a survivor? In a crowded room, did you feel alone? Did you call up your mother and tell her you loved her? Did you dust off that Bible at home? Did you open your eyes, hope it never happened? Close your eyes and not go to sleep. Did you notice the sunset the first time in ages? Speak to some stranger on the street. Did you lay down at night and think of tomorrow? Go out and buy you a gun. Did you turn off that violent old movie you're watching and turn on I Love Lucy reruns? Did you go to a church and hold hands with some stranger, stand in line and give your own blood? Did you just stay home and cling tight to your family? Thank God you had somebody to love. I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I can tell you the difference in Iraq and Iran. But I know Jesus and I talk to God, and I remember this from when I was young. Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love. I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I could tell you the difference in Iraq and Iran. But I know Jesus and I talk to God, and I remember this from when I was young. Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love. The greatest is love. The greatest is love. Where were you when the world stopped turning that September day?
I come back on just because I knew Carl was going to say that, because he is a simp for a bitch that I hate worse than Brittany J. And I'm not, no, fuck that. And he ain't been back around here, so fuck him. Carl nosy, ain't he? Yep, I seen him, yeah, and no. I don't do that, especially when you're all up in one of my biggest enemies chats like nonstop, and you're not over here no more. So yeah, bye. I took it.
So you and Megs, I guess, or you, Carl, I guess. He did, didn't he? He sure kissed my ass, and I side-eyed him like a motherfucker for a while, and he loves Jules, and that's why I kind of was soft on him, but now he's all up in my enemies. I know Carl ain't gonna know. Truly, Megs, anybody else? Guess who it is? It's not Crypt Keeper. It's not her. She's not my biggest enemy. Right, Megs. Carl, see now? You see why we keep a tight ship over here? Meg kisses your ass. She probably does. She kisses mine too. No. Prove it, Carl. Pixar didn't happen. Yeah, I don't put up bullshit. Fuck that. Bye. Bye, Alan. You're gone. You'll never be. No. And if he comes over here, yeah, I'm going to call him out. And he's got a new account with obviously a fake picture. Hell, I thought Carl was fake. And at least he ain't got a fake picture, you know. Megs. You don't have no ass, Carl? How tall are you, Carl? Oh, I wanted to show you a picture of me and my brother and my dad. This was, yeah, I'm going to go. I know I'm talking. I scrolled off because I started talking about Alan. But, when was this picture? This was probably right before I got my divorce. So it was about 10 years ago. You ain't missing nothing, Carl. She's fucking wretched. Who do y'all think Alan simps for? No. I thought y'all would guess. There it goes again. Hear it? Hold on. Yeah, y'all, I'm going to get... Oh, you're 6'1"? That's cool. I'm going to get off here, y'all. This is freaking me out. I got to do something. I think it's a faulty... I think I need to replace it, honestly. I'm 5'5" and a half. My son's taller than you, Carl. My son is 6'4". I was going to show y'all that fucking picture. Hold on. Of my daddy and my brother. My daddy, he's sick now. He don't look like this now. But see, that's my daddy, my brother, and me a while back. I still look the same. I just got longer hair. My hair's really long. Yeah. The only two men I love in my life. That was down in Alabama. Roll Tide, baby, roll Tide. But we're all from Kentucky, but my dad moved to Alabama. He's been there like all my life pretty much. But yeah. All right, I'm going to get off here. Love y'all. I'll keep y'all updated. I got to fix this somehow. I got to take care of it. Good night. Carl, email me. I hate fucking emails, by the way. It takes forever for me to, I have to keep refreshing and no, you in that fucking Clinique happy. No. I used to wear that though back when I was younger. That was only, I was in my 30s then in that picture. It was like right before I got my divorce and lost my mind. And that's, yeah. But, good night. Love y'all. Bye.